Welcome back and thank you very much for joining me. My name is Swadik Mayanja, but you guys can call me Q. And on this channel, I bring you news, current events, and fun topics for nurses everywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, we got big news today. And the reason you've missed me, the reason I haven't been present is because I made the switch, the ultimate switch, the one switch nurses dread, scared of, the craziest switch in the history of the world. I switched over to night shift. My body is still aching. I can't sleep. I don't know how I'm standing, but we'll get there. I'm going to do a mini nurse live rant at the end of this nursing news segment. And per usual, just look down in the description box below. I'll have each story with the timestamps. So if you want to skip something and jump back to the beginning, by all means do it, but stick around. Thank you for joining me. Let's get this party started. Let's go.
You'll be doing things you don't like doing in order to go on living, that is, to go on doing things you don't like doing, which is stupid. Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way.
Hey. So this week we're jumping right into it with the nurse of the week. First story of the day is going to be a nurse of the week, and this nurse of the week, I get super excited when nurses do things outside of nursing but represent nurses, because this is something I do here on YouTube. Obviously, this is not nursing per se, but it's something I do when I bring my passion for nursing out there, right? But this is a personal love I do. But what about things that can actually help the community, that actually makes a difference in the community? The nurse of the week this week is doing that in a really big way, and she's breaking records. She's setting milestones while she does that. It's absolutely amazing. She's amazing. I'm excited for her. Nurse Lauren Underwood. With that kind of name, you have to know. Do you watch House of Cards? If you don't, who are you? How are you still alive? But Nurse Underwood, Lauren Underwood, is the youngest Black Congresswoman in history ever to be a Congresswoman, an African-American Congresswoman. She's the youngest. And on top of all of that, yes, my friends, she is a nurse, repping that nursing, that registered nurse lifestyle all the way up into Congress. Let me just make sure you guys are clear here. Lauren Underwood is not the youngest Congresswoman to ever serve. She's the youngest African American to ever serve. And on top of that, she's also a nurse. She is part of the Democratic Party. She's a smart lady, obviously. I'll get to a couple of her stances, where she stands on the issues. She's brand new, so we don't have a voting record per se, but I'll tell you where she stands on some issues, how I feel about it. But let's talk a little bit about Lauren Underwood. Who is this lady? So she's a representative of Illinois' 14th district, and she was sworn in earlier this month. And I did a story about this a couple of months ago, but this was a record-breaking year for Congresswomen, for women going into Congress. 127 broke the record. It's amazing. I can't wait for us to get some more. And yes, hopefully we get some more nurses in Congress as well, because I do believe nurses are part of the people. Nurses speak for the people. And Lauren, you are a nurse that is currently speaking for us. And when I say us, I do get the privilege of being part of the African American race. I know you're not just thinking of blacks when you're in there, but it's nice to see a familiar face in Congress. I love it, Lauren. You're amazing. Nurse of the week, and so much more coming your way. After achieving her Bachelor's of Science in Nursing from the University of Michigan, she worked as a research nurse while pursuing her master's program at Johns Hopkins. Girl, stop. You're too much, girl. So following her graduation, she began her career in public service with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. While there, Underwood worked on important initiatives such as implementing the Affordable Care Act and the Flint water crisis. In addition to her public health work, Underwood also served as an instructor at Georgetown University School to teach advanced practice nursing. Lauren Underwood. Oh my goodness. Nurse Lauren. Oh, Representative Underwood. Oh, I'm weak at the knees. House of Cards season 10. Here we come. I'm excited. This is awesome. This is a resume. This is a full resume. This is something you leave and you tell your grandkids. This is a legacy, what I just wrote, what I just read. And no, she's not done. She's 32 years young. She's just starting, and she's taking over the world. Kick down those doors. Break those glass ceilings, girl. The sky's the limit with you, Lauren Underwood. I'm excited. I'm super excited. I love this. I love this. You know what? Let me stop. Right now, I'm talking about the happiness that I have, the joy, the excitement, that I have inside of me when I see nurses rise up to positions like being a representative. So Lauren Underwood, yes, I'm proud. I'm happy. I love that you're in Congress. It makes me as an African American proud. It makes me as a nurse even prouder. Go, go, go kick some ass and represent for us, girl. Yay, yay. So for story numero dos, moving on to Nurse Night. I love this. I love Nurse Night. If you guys didn't know, I'm going to put a picture, a video, a clip, a something of Nurse Night last year. It was fantastic. Party time, and don't you think for 1 second that these nurses held back. These nurses, as caring, as compassionate, as kind-hearted as they are, they know how to party. Hey, hey, party. Nurse Night, if you don't know what it is, it's where us nurses, during Nurse Appreciation Week, we vote for nurses we put our in submissions to nurse.org. It's going to be in the description box below, of a nurse that is doing extraordinary work at your job, outside of the facility, for your community, whatever the situation. If there's a nurse in your life that you think is just absolutely amazing, you submit them to nurse.org. The rest of the nurses in the U.S. vote for those nurses to decide which nurses should be appreciated and which should have the spotlight during that Nurse Night. And on Nurse Night, there's 10 nurses that get to go on the Red Sox field, diamond, and one nurse, the winner, the chosen one, the one that nurse.org chooses, gets to throw the first pitch. I know that they get something. I don't know the exact details, but I do know all of us nurses need some appreciation. And if you know a nurse in your life that has done something special, that is just an amazing human being, period, who cares what they do at work, please put a submission in there and then vote for one of the nurses that are already up on the nurse.org. And then come to Nurse Night. Come to Nurse Night. It's in May. I don't know the exact date. It's in May. It's going to be in the website down below. Make sure you get that night off, that weekend off, whatever it is, and come, enjoy, party, appreciate, let loose, because God knows we need to do this, right? Last year we had over 4,000 nurses go out to Nurse Night. It was a blast, a god diggity blast, and it was raining that day. Imagine how much more fun we would have if it isn't going to rain this year. I'm excited already. Nurse Blake is kicking ass. I mean, he's blowing up, so I feel like even more than 4,000 nurses, I'm definitely going to be there. Hopefully I get a switch. I'm looking at y'all ladies that are lady. Please hook me up. Hopefully I get a switch. Hopefully I get to go there, and I'll see you guys there. Please, please, please don't forget to vote for the nurse that means something to you. Don't forget to put submissions for the nurses in your life, because that's what this entire night is about, appreciating the nurses in your life, even if they don't become one of the big winners. Even if that doesn't happen, you just know that you were just putting out your love, appreciating the nurses that are doing things for you, for the community, for the patients, for whoever that you do truly appreciate it. And the cherry on top of all of this, is, yes, Nurse Night is coming back. Nurse Blake, nurse.org is coming back to Boston. Woot, woot, go Red Sox, go Sox. But they are also expanding it. In fact, nurse.org and Nurse Blake have teamed up with 7 major league sports teams to host Nurse Appreciation Night across the country. So if you're not in Boston, if you're not in New England, and you want to appreciate your nurses, and you're saying, where's our turn? Why can't we party like the rest of the Boston nurses? Well, because number 1, we're special, we're the shit. But number 2, you do get to party. You do get to party, and this is the year. So go to the website, look up where the nurse nights are going to be across the country. This year we only have 7. Next year, hopefully, it's all 50 states. Who knows? But just be a part of this year if you can. Are you a travel nurse? Do you want to be a travel nurse? Do you want to just travel as a nurse and take your profession with you within the country and not have to deal with the rigmarole, the frustration of getting a new license, taking a new test, dealing with the nurses, the state boards of whatever state you're moving to? Of course you don't want to deal with any of that BS. You as a nurse, and nursing is a profession where you should be able to go from one state to the next and just treat the human body like you did in the state prior. Yes, of course, I am not delusional, and I do know that in certain states there's a certain type of population, and yes, you should go through the specific education that you need to go through to be aware of what that certain population's illnesses are, risk factors are, all of that good stuff. Yes, I'm aware, but you should not have to do the paperwork of going through the licensing board and all of this stuff that you had to do when you first became a nurse. It's horrendous. It's the worst thing ever. And hopefully one day, all 50 states, you'll be able to get your license in one state and practice in the country, practice in the country, just going from one border to the next without jumping through some hoops. And how is this going to happen? I'm happy you asked. The NLC. The NLC, the Nursing Licensure Compact, is an agreement between states that allows nurses to have one license, but the ability to practice in other states that are part of the agreement. So just a little bit of background on what the and how this was formed. The original NLC was first developed in 2000, and by 2015, it had grown to include 25 states. Goals were developed for every state to become a member of the NLC, but there were resistance from some states regarding the requirements for the licensure, and that's the reason it stayed at 25 states. But in recent past, most recently, on January 19, 2018, the new and improved Enhanced Nursing Licensure Compact, or ENLC, was implemented. This enhanced compact speaks to those requirements that were all borderline, because the certain states that didn't want to join the NLC said, no, our requirements, there's specific requirements we have for our state that we just not going to budge on. And if you want to come to our state as a nurse, you need to complete those requirements before you can practice as a nurse. This enhanced NLC is trying to fix that issue, right? And already it has 4 states, Massachusetts, my home state, already pending to become part of the NLC. And I think this is good news. I do believe as a nurse, if you get your license in America, if you're educated here in the States, and if you are licensed in one of the 50 states of America, you should be able to practice in all of them. And this is the pathway to that. Those pending states that are going to be part of the NLC in the near future, hopefully, are Indiana, Massachusetts, Michigan, and New Jersey. I think this is good news. This is good news for the states. This is good news for us nurses. This is helpful because now we travel nurses, or just nurses that want to move and groove and go from one state to the next, or if you live on the border of one state and work in another, you don't have to get your license in one state and deal with the frustration of getting re-licensed in the state that you just live 5 feet from. So I think this is good news. Let me know what you guys think. On to some really shitty news, some really depressing and disappointing, just heartbreaking news, okay? I think of nurses as angels. I think of nurses as heroes. The reason I made this channel is because I love being a nurse, and I think what we do is special, and it's necessary, it's needed, it's important, it's all of the above. But when you abuse the power that comes with being a nurse, you ruin it. You ruin it for all of us. You put the fear of trusting a nurse in the public, and it's scary, and it's the worst thing ever, and I hate it. And this is one of the stories that a man has abused what it means to be a nurse in ways you can't even describe, in the worst way possible. A nurse in Phoenix was charged with sexual assault of a woman in a vegetative state who gave birth. So not only did this insane nurse rape and sexually assault a vegetative patient, a patient that was brain dead, in a coma, not only did he rape and sexually assault her, it got to the point where she was pregnant and had a child. What in the world why? How? I don't understand. Let me tell you the background before I start screaming and yelling and ripping my eyeballs out, all right? A nurse at a Phoenix nursing home who had been assigned to care for a woman in a vegetative state who was raped and later gave birth to a child was charged on this past Wednesday, with sexual assault. So Phoenix Police Department took the nurse, Nathan Sutherland, and I'll show you a picture of the horrific, disgusting man that did this, who was 36 years old, in for questioning in the case on Tuesday, the police said, and collected a DNA sample from him that matched that of the child, a boy who was born on December 29th. Mr. Sutherland, a licensed practical nurse, had worked at Hacienda since 2012 and was assigned to a unit treating intellectually disabled people since 2014. The company said in a statement on Wednesday he was fired immediately after the company learned of his arrest. Before I add my 2 cents to this conversation, I do want to add that the two doctors who treated patients at Hacienda, including the woman at the center of the case, no longer work at the nursing home. I think it's important that we talk about the whole team and not just Nathan Nathan Sutherland. Yes, I'll get to him because he's just the worst of the worst. And yes, he could have done the sexual assault or rape with the whole team being perfect caregivers. But I find it really difficult to just let the rest of the team off the hook, and obviously they didn't. Those two doctors who were at the center of the care, who took care of the patient, obviously were let go because there are signs and symptoms to having a pregnancy. I don't know the specific details of how she went through the pregnancy. I don't know if because she was in a vegetative state, the pregnancy was very different. But we do know that the baby boy was born and is in good condition. He's healthy. That is the current situation of the baby boy, so he obviously developed perfectly fine. I'm guessing she had all of the signs and symptoms of a pregnant woman. So, do I want to put all the blame on Nathan Sutherland? Of course I do. He is the monster. He's the goddamn monster. But as the rest of the care team, we could have done other things to make sure it didn't get to the point where on the day of the birth is when the care people, the nurses, the staff at Hacienda called 911 saying, oh my goodness, this patient is giving birth to a baby boy and she's in a bad condition. And that's literally what happened. The day of the birth is the first time anyone noticed that she was pregnant. And that's how it got to that point. Now, going back to Nathan, you are a disgusting human being. It kills me inside because we now know that he worked at Hacienda and he took care of patients who were disabled and had mental disabilities since 2012. It's 2008, so he was fired obviously 2018. That's 6 years where he was involved with these patients, taking care of these patients day in and day out. Obviously had hours, tons of time one-on-one with these patients. What is to say he hasn't done the same exact thing to his other patients, to hundreds, to tens, whoever knows? Even if this lady is the only patient he did it to, I'm not saying I'm just saying, just thinking, going back and trying to wrap your head around a human being that would do that to a patient that's in a vegetative state. They obviously have no moral standards at all. It's the craziest thing. It's just the worst. It's just the worst. And like I say, there's a responsibility that comes with being a nurse. There is a trust that the population, that the patient, that all of the people around us, that your community puts in you as a nurse. You are taking care of their health, the most personal thing. The only thing we have to ourselves that we can honestly say is ours is our human body. And this man ripped that trust from the patient, from the family, from the community. It's a horrific subject. It's a sad story. And everyone's talking about Nathan and how disgusting he is. And I just went on the full rant about that. Everyone's talking about the other healthcare caretakers and how all of this happened. But the question of the day is, the most important question here is, what is going to happen to that baby boy? What is going to happen to this boy that knows that his father, his biological father, is a rapist and knows that his mother is in a vegetative state, will never know anything about his mother? That's the question. What is going to happen with the baby boy? The last report, there wasn't too much about him in the articles that I read, but he is in a healthy, good condition. Hopefully he goes, a wonderful family will take him in. Hopefully the family of the patient will take him in. Something, but that's the question I want to know. That's what I want to know. What is happening to the baby boy? I hate talking about these stories, but I think it's super important that we do, because I believe that 99.9999 forever percent of nurses are amazing human beings, and that's why I talk about us in such good light and I'm so proud to be a nurse. But that very tiny percentage of nurses that take advantage of the position that they have we, as the rest of the nursing community, needs to yell and scream at the top of our lungs saying that is absolutely not wrong. We do not stand with nurses that do things like that. We are the furthest thing away from human beings like that, and we want them out of the profession and put in a cell and locked away for as long as necessary. The fact that he's a male nurse, it just makes everything, it's horrendous. It's just worse. I mean, there's a reason, ladies and gentlemen. It's not just out of the blue that the majority of times a patient says, I don't feel comfortable with this nurse, is a female patient with a male nurse. That's not an accident. That's just not something that just happens. It's because of the culture we live in. And these kind of stories, these kind of human beings do not help the situation. Obviously, Obviously, I said 99 point whatever our nurses are great, and that includes the male nurses in the community. But I'm saying when stories like this happen, you can't blame a patient when they don't want to be taken care of by a male nurse. You can't get upset. You can't feel some type of way. It has nothing to do with you, but these people, these kind of nurses, these male nurses make it hard for us, the rest of the male nurses that are doing our jobs, just trying to be as good a nurse as we possibly can to all of the patients we have. I'm done. I'm sorry. These stories, they just kill me. They kill me because I love what I do, and they bring out the worst of what can happen if you give nurses the power, the autonomy, all of these things. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. But I'm happy that everything's taken care of, and I'm hoping for the best for this baby boy. So sticking on the topic of babies, it's not the best transition ever. But anyways, moving on to the next story. New York is celebrating the legalization of mothers being able to have abortions up until the date of birth. I mean, so looking at that headline, if you were to scroll down your news feed and you saw that headline, even for the most pro-choice, adamant, protesters, whatever, fighters, Planned Parenthood lovers, that headline sounds a bit scary, right? And I agree it does, because I am that crazy, lefty, insane lib. That headline does sound scary. Because the honest truth is, at 9 months, at the date of birth, if you are aborting a baby at the date of birth, that baby is indeed a baby. I know people love to have the argument about when does a zygote become a baby, when does the egg become, all of that stuff. And yes, it is important to have those conversations, and I love those conversations. But there's no way you can tell me aborting a viable baby at 9 months is just, carefree, conscious free. And I don't like to put that on the woman that has to make those kind of decisions. But the reason I'm saying this is because that headline is deceiving, and that headline makes you think that the new law will allow mothers to abort viable babies all the way up until the date of birth. And I don't like it, the fact that those headlines do that, because it's just scaring people. It's getting people in an uproar, and who's going to read the fine details of this piece of legislation? I am, and that's why I'm talking about this story, and I'm here to educate the rest of you. So under the Reproductive Health Act, which is what was passed in New York, non-doctors are now allowed to conduct abortions, and the procedure could be done until the mother's due date if the woman's health is endangered or if the fetus is not viable. The previous law only allowed abortions after 24 weeks of pregnancy if a woman's life was at risk. So that's super important. So number one, the previous law allowed having late-term abortions if the mother's life was at risk. I think that's a no-brainer. It's the only person that should make the decision between my own life and the baby I'm about to give birth to's life is the person giving birth. I hate with a passion. You can believe what you think. You can think that it's murder if the mother decides to abort it instead of risking her own life. You can think whatever you want, but the choice has to be in the mother's hands, to the person it means the most to, because it's not your life that's at risk, it's that mother's life at risk. They could be the most cold-hearted mother, the most caring mother. It doesn't matter who the person is. It's their body. They make the decision. It's their life that they could lose if shit hits the fan. So that's just a no-brainer, and I don't want to continue with that. And then obviously, I just think that this isn't obvious. If the baby is not viable, if the doctor says that this baby is not viable, it is not going to be born. I mean, it is not going to be life, right? Of course, I think you should be able to have a late-term abortion. I think this piece of legislation is a no-brainer, and it frustrates me. And the only reason I'm up in a roar about this is because the headlines. You read these headlines, and you just you think of the worst, because it said it. And I'll put up some pictures of what these headlines are and what the pictures of they have. One, they use this headline: mother can give abortion up until date of birth date, up until birth date. You gotta put a little more detail. I don't know. I'm not an editor. I know you want eyes on it, but most people are just going to look at that headline and say, holy shit, what is this world coming to now? Women are just murdering their babies the last minute. That's just not it. It's not it. It's not it. It's not it. So now you know. New York is legalized a piece of legislation that allows mothers who that already the law was already, if the mother's life is at risk, the mother gets to choose to have that abortion as late as up to the date of birth. And now it also the mothers can have abortions and don't have to give birth to a non-viable baby. And you got to just think about the entire process of giving birth to a non-viable baby. Number one, you go through all the pain, all the ache, everything that comes with giving birth. You have to do, knowing that your baby, not your baby, that the fetus inside is not viable. It's a scary, scary thing. Mentally, it screws people up. If the mother wants to have an abortion and not deal with that late in their pregnancy, that should be her choice. And I think it's an obvious thing to allow for the mother to do. That is at least my 2 cents. Please let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. When I said it first in the beginning, were you surprised? Because I just don't like those headlines. It scares people. It scares me, and I'm the most pro-choice human being, feminist, Planned Parenthood lover, whatever they could ever be. All right? I said my piece. One more story before I talk to you about my switch over to overnights, and this one is another doozy. It's another sad story, but it's important, not specifically nursing oriented, but you'll understand. All right, so a 10-year-old boy in Kentucky allegedly committed suicide because of relentless bullying over his colostomy bag, according to reports. This hurts. This really, really, really hurts. Let me just tell you a little bit more. Fuck, man, just God damn it. So Seven Bridges is the name of the young boy that committed suicide. Seven Bridges' mother said she returned from the grocery store on Saturday morning to find the 5th grader hanged himself at the family's home in Louisville. The child was born with a medical defect that required him to undergo more than 26 surgeries and use a colostomy bag. His family said bullies reportedly often tormented him because of the smell from the condition. So number one, you can see the boy who committed suicide, adorable kid. He's in 5th grade. I mean, what? God damn it. Why? Just why? Number one. So for those who don't know what a colostomy is, I'll show you a picture of what it looks like, and then you'll say, oh, I've seen those, or I've at least seen it on TV, or I know what that is. And if you don't know what that is still, a colostomy is part of a treatment plan. It's the end result of a treatment plan when you have conditions with your colon or your large intestine, and they literally have to cut your colon out or cut pieces of your large intestine out, and they put a colostomy there because that's where all your bowel movement ends up going, instead of going through your rectum, because they have literally cut out pieces of your large intestine or just your colon entirely. A lot more people than you think have colostomy bags. It's not as rare as, this is not like a rare crazy condition that he had, but he did go through 26 surgeries and he had the colostomy bag. And I know he's just a young kid. And do you want to put all the blame on the young kid, on the children that are bullying him? Of course you want to say that it was wrong and it was just horrific and it was sad and we need to do something about the bullying. But the adults involved, the parents involved, everyone involved. My God, how can it get to this situation? How can it get to this situation, right? And I just want to say, before I go down this hole, I want to talk about Seven's mom. She says Seven's mom said the bullying became so severe that they planned to transfer to schools the next year. She constantly told him, just finish this year of school, we're going to go to a new school, you're going to have new friends. And she did everything she could. She contacted the school about the bullying. She said, it's too much, my kid doesn't like going to school, my kid's embarrassed, my kid's getting bullied all day every day. And if you don't know what a colostomy bag is, you see this colostomy bag, you just look at what it looks like, right? This is a 5th grader that needs to take care of this when they go to school. It's a horrible condition. It sucks that he had to go through it. And the worst part about it, not only is he bullied because of the smell and because he has it, but this is after going through 26 surgeries for a condition he had no control over. The kid is in 5th grade. But this is what happens. This is what happens when you allow bullying, because it's a part of growing up, to just happen freely at school. This kid was tormented every single day to the point that they were moving schools. His mother would talk to him and talk to the school and talk to the parents and talk to everyone else and say, look, my kid is getting tormented every single day. We're moving schools. Can you please do something about it? to the point where he ended up hanging himself in 5th grade. Losing a child in this kind of situation, there's no recovering. There's just no recovering from a situation like this. Moving forward, we can't do anything for 7, but we can do something for the kids like 7, for the children like 7, for those who are in situations where they have medical problems, where they have to deal with it in school 24/7. Let's make a culture where if kids are getting bullied for things that they have no control over, if kids are getting bullied, period, we stop and we let them know, the bullies, the ones in charge, the people that are just sitting around laughing and soaking it up, let them know that that is unacceptable. Unacceptable. So got that off my chest. Stories are done for the day, and I do want to go just let y'all know what I have been up to this past couple of 2-3 weeks. I haven't had any nursing news popping out. The last Everyday Hero was with Nate. That was in the early beginning of January. So I want to let you know why I have been on the hiatus. I've been just missing, and if you even follow me on Insta, I've been super not as good as I usually am on Insta. Which, by the way, please follow me. But I have a valid excuse, and for all the nurses out there, and even if you're not a nurse but you understand my pain, I switched from working days to working overnight. Yes, I'm now working overnight. I'm not doing the 24 hours per diem, huffy puffy, light cake. No, I'm full-time overnight. And I got my first paycheck yesterday. Woot woot, got that first paycheck. I mean, that shit's serious, but that shit is serious. But that differential though, that differential, my God, it's exciting stuff. Just looking at that check, I mean, the difference is mind-boggling, right? But I need to talk to you guys because there's a few things that working overnight just does not lend itself to. Number one, we're human beings. We were meant to sleep at night. Right? That is just what we were created to do. Our circadian rhythm says go to bed at night. How do we sleep? How do y'all sleep? I can't sleep. My sleep, it took me, so it's been 3 weeks into my overnight, adventure here. And I do plan on staying on overnights for at least in the near future, right? So at least a year, maybe a little over a year. So I'm in this. But 3 weeks into it, the sleep schedule. Oh my God. I don't understand. I don't get it. It's mind. It's crazy, right? I sleep all day now. In the beginning, it was insane for me. It was impossible for me to sleep the night before my first night shift. I couldn't sleep during the day. I can't take a nap. I'm usually the best napper in this side of the world. Just close my eyes and pass out. But no, I'd freak out. All I'm thinking about is I gotta go to work. I gotta go to work. Gotta go to work. I wouldn't sleep. I'd go to work. I'd be a zombie at work. Get back home, pass the hell out, sleep all day up until my next shift. And the sleep cycle would screw me. After my 2 in a row, my 3 in a row, I would have a full day of just sleeping, and then I'd be up all night starting at like 12 midnight. It's ruining me. The sleep cycle is ruining me. It is ruining me. But on the brighter side, that differential though, That differential though. Hey.
Oh, you're there so fucking bad.
I'm good.
By all of the things I never had.
Thanks to that diff. Hey.
I wanna be on the cover of Forbes magazine.
Yeah.
Smiling next to Oprah and the Queen.
And yes, the sleep is bad, but my eating is probably even worse. I don't know what it is about working overnights, but I'm addicted to eating horrible food. I eat out 24/7 because on your way home from work, you say, why not just buy some breakfast on the way home? On your way back, on your way into work, you're like, oh, all the stores are open. Let me get some dinner on the way out. I eat out constantly. I crave the worst foods. I'm eating, when I'm up, I'm eating every 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, but it's just really tiny, really bad food. I don't understand it. I'm probably eating a whole lot less, but just the quality of the food is shit. Dog shit. I promise you, it's the worst. It's the worst thing ever. But when I do go out to dinner, you better believe I'm getting that vegan steak. High dining, nice, with the champagne, please, cause that differential though.
Yeah, I'm in the terror. Got a head full of stacks, better grab an umbrella. I make it right. I'm in the terror. Got a head full of stacks, better grab an umbrella. I make it right.
even get me started on the exercise. And exercise is non-existent. If you do follow me on Insta, shameless plug again, please follow me on Insta. You did see there were 2 nights where I did my mid-workout during my shift situation, but that's impossible. Because I told you about my sleep situation, right? Because it's so hard for me to actually sleep regularly when I get back home during the daytime and the light is beaming into my eyeballs. I can't work out during work and then pass out for the last half of my shift, last quarter of my shift, whatever the situation is. It's a different world. Working out during your shift is a really bad idea. I don't work out. I'm eating like shit. I don't believe in working out. But because of that differential, I might be able to afford myself a nice personal trainer, a nutritionist, the whole goddamn night. Someone get me a chef over here. That differential though, huh? That differential though. Hey.
If you ain't got no money,
Get your broke ass. If you ain't got the div, get your broke ass. What? And then the thing that I think that I'm noticing the most, that hit probably the hardest, right? I didn't know how much of a loner I truly am up until I started working night shift. And is it loner by choice? I don't know. Is it loner by laziness? God knows. But all I know is, because my schedule is literally the opposite of all of my best of friends, all of my family, everyone in my life that I, interact with the most outside of obviously the nurses I work with. All of them are working 9 to 5, working in the day, up in the day, going to school, all of the regular, normal human being shit. And I'm the crazy vampire zombie working all night, coming back home, passing out. And I've kind of enjoyed it. It's crazy to me that I actually enjoy the amount of time I've been by myself, but it's also weird because a lot of the time I'm actually sleeping, and when I'm up, I don't even know what I'm doing. It's not like I'm conscious. It's just like I'm moving through the world, and I'm just like in Netflix, in Hulu, and it's like, that's it. That's it. That is my social life, Netflix and Hulu. It is crazy. I don't like it. My friends and family don't know who I am anymore. I sneak on by. I'm like, it's insane. I'm a vampire. I'm a zombie. Working nights is insane, but I have to tell you, it's the first time in a long time I'm able to afford that HBO. Talk about that Game of Thrones. Thanks to that differential, huh? That differential though.
But nothing in this world that I like more than checks. Money. All I really wanna see is the money. I don't really need a D, I need the all a bad bitch need is the money. I got pants in the coop, hey. Bustin' out the roof. I got pants in the coop, hey. Touch me, I'll shoot back.
I know. No, but like real talk. I'm having fun here because the difference in the paycheck is huge. It is humongous. It is. I mean, like day and night. Pun intended. It is literally huge, and I love it, and it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. And I'm just gonna say this, but don't hate me if you work on days, and don't hate me if you work on nights. I did just only do 3 weeks of nights, so obviously in time things will change. I will be able to tell you where I see the differences. The night nurses, they're on their own. If you work nights, it's you and the people that are around you, your team, the nursing assistants, the aides, the nurses, your colleagues. It's you guys, the charge nurse. It's you. That's it. There's one intern or resident or whoever is covering for 100 patients. They're not going to come there on the drop of a dime. No, you page them. They'll page you when they want to page you. So when you work nights, you are on your own. But the truth is, I don't want to say it's easier, but there's less to do. There is less things to do when you work nights. You don't have to work with the patient with PT, OT. You don't have to feed the patient 3 meals throughout the day. You don't have to deal with the families. You don't have to do discharges. There's a lot of things that you do during the day that you don't do at night. So it makes sense in the sense that you're on your own, you have more autonomy, and it ruins your fucking life. It really does. It ruins your life, your health. Your workout schedule, your eating schedule, your sleep cycle. It ruins your life. You better pay me more. God damn, like literally your life. Doing this research, it doesn't make, whatever research you ever do, it'll say, if you work overnights for 40 years of your life, if that's what you do for the majority of your life, you are losing 10 years of your life. You are going to lose 5 years of your life. You are going to gain 6 more pounds than you would if you work days. I mean, working nights, it takes a toll on the body, the soul, the mind. It makes sense that night shifters get paid more. And I'm just asking, I need your help out there, ladies and gentlemen. Nurses specifically, obviously, I want to hear from you, but anyone that works overnight, let me know, how in the world are you doing it? How are you working nights and still being a healthy, functional, contributing member of society and not just a zombie that is in love with Hulu and can't wait for season 8 of Game of Thrones? That's a side note because goddamn Game of Thrones is a shit. But I need your help. I need your help. Let me know, please, and thank you. How are you eating well? How do you work out working nights? How do you enjoy life? How do you hang out with your friends who work days and you come work nights? How do you keep your relationship alive if you're dating someone and they work days and you work nights? How? Please let me know. I really need some answers because my life is falling apart, but my bank account, ooh, that shit is exploding. The differential, though.
I was born to flex. Yes. Diamonds on my neck. Yeah. I like boarding jets. I like more than sex. But nothing in this world that I like more than checks. Money. All I really wanna see is the money. I don't really need a D, I need the money. All a bad bitch need is the money. I got pants in the coop. Bustin' out the roof. I got pants in the coop.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate this. If you guys were informed or educated in any way, shape, or form by these stories, please hit that like button. If you liked my presentation of the news, I really suggest you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know every time Q the Nurse drops some hot, fresh press news. Thank you. Catch you next week. Deuces.